Audio mixing is the balance in volume and tone between different audio tracks. So when you have an interview of somebody talking and you've got some music underneath that as well, you want to make sure that we still hear the person talking and that the music is not going to be too loud. That is audio mixing. So before we can start doing audio mixing, we first need a small edit. I currently have an empty timeline, as you can see, because I want to show you guys that process of putting together a small edit. So you won't learn anything new in this lesson, but I think it's good to kind of like see how I'm creating an edit. All right, I'm going to go over to my footage folder, and the first thing that I'll do is locate that interview right here. Let's just double click on that. I've got a selection here. I'm going to right click right here and choose clear in and out to clear my in and out point so that I can drag the entire interview into my timeline. All right, I'm going to go over to the window menu on top and make sure that my text panel is active. There we go. Select that clip. I'm going to go over to transcript, and it's already done. That was probably from one of the previous lessons. So I'm just going to edit here on the text. So this pause can just go. Human Explorer went to Iceland. This can go. Here he says something double, so that has to go. We have some pauses here. I'm just going to delete those pauses as well. All right, I've edited my interview based on the text that was transcribed. So this is a good basis to start from. Now let's look for some nice shots to fill that in. So here he says, "Hi, I'm Timon. I'm an Arctic explorer and I recently went to Iceland." So I'm going to create like a small gap right here to show a little bit of Iceland here in the middle. So let's go back here in my project window, go over to video, and let's look for drone. Perhaps have like an overview shot of Iceland. So perhaps like these mountains are pretty cool. I think like they show Iceland, right? We got some ice in there in the back. So I think that does show like this is Iceland, right? So let's drag this into the timeline. And I want this to start already a bit where he says, "I've been to Iceland." So let's play this back and see where we have to start that clip. All right, so perhaps somewhere right here, and we show Iceland. There we go, we got some nice music playing right here, and then perhaps like one more shot where he starts to talk about the next thing, which is the landscapes there are beautiful. So let's show landscapes, right? I've got like, there's this river here, right here. So let's drag that into the timeline here on top. And so it's right here where I want to start the music. So let's also already place the music in there. I'm going to go back and look for audio, and we've got music folder right there. And I'm gonna take an instrumental song this time because I don't want a singer to interfere with Timon's interview. All right, let's have a listen here and see which part we can select. But I think that the beginning is pretty good. All right, let's set an out point right here and drag the audio track into the timeline. So I might want to start the music where we start seeing the landscape. All right, let's play this back. As you're editing, you always want to play back any changes you make.
"I'm Timon, I'm an Arctic explorer and I recently went to Iceland."
All right, looking good. And I might want to cut like on the beat of that song. So let's look for that beat, which is right here. You can see it as well in the waveform of that song here. There's like a little peak, and these peaks always show volume. So the higher the peak, the louder. So usually a sudden peak is a beat. So I might want to cut here on this point. So let's trim that clip and drag here the next one next to it. Let's have a look. So here we have another beat, so I might want to trim this clip as well and add a new clip in there. So let's go back. Let's look for the video folder again. Drone perhaps, and let's look for another landscape. This one is pretty cool as well. Lots of ice. Here's a nice glacier, by the way. In points, out points. Drag it into the timeline. Let's play it back. All right, looking good. I want to hear what Timon is saying. Currently, the music is too loud. So for a quick moment, I'm just going to mute that entire track. And you can see here on the left-hand side, within the track options, every track has an M button, which can mute that entire track. So everything within this track now is muted. So that way I can only hear Timon. And if you have multiple tracks and you only want to listen to one in specific, you can also solo that track. So instead of muting audio track number 2, I can also solo audio track number 1. So now only this one is being played back and none of the other ones. All right, so here it says I was able to capture all of waterfalls with my drone. All right, so we're gonna have to find a waterfall, but I see like I already used it right here. This might be that waterfall. You know what, let's place this one right here where it says where I captured a lot of waterfalls with my drone, and then perhaps put something else in here. Let's go back here and look at the normal camera folder. see what we have in there. I really like this shot as well of this fog. So let's drag that into the timeline, and which I'm going to drag for a moment here on top on track number 3. That way I can trim it in so that it fits here between these two clips. All right, let's play this back.
Arctic explorer, and I recently went to Iceland. The landscapes there are very beautiful, and I was able to capture a lot of waterfalls with my drone.
All right, I was able to capture, I want to show Timon just for a small moment there. Let's see how this looks.
Beautiful, and I was able to capture a lot of waterfalls with my drone.
All right, really good. I might want to extend this clip here a little bit because I also want here to have a little break. I'm going to add a little gap here in between. And again, just show some nature shots. But I know that Timon is going to start talking about animals here. So I kind of want to have like a bridge in between these two. Let's have a look here at what I have. We got the sheep, we got the horses, but they're going to be for later. You know, it perhaps show where Timon or someone is walking. You know, it could be traveling towards those animals. So let's take this shot here, drag that into the timeline. So here we have the waterfalls, and now he is going to walk towards those horses and sheep. Editing is always about telling a story. You are showing something visual. What is that visual telling us? Let's put the horses and the sheep now in there. I got the sheep right here. Let me just drag that already into my timeline. And we've got a horse over here. I'm going to drag that as well into my timeline. I'm just placing it very random for now on the side so that I can use that later on, because I need like one more shot here in between. And I know that in my drone folder, I actually have some horses here as well, where we fly with the drone over the horses. So maybe I want to take like an in point here, go a little bit forward in time, out point there, this selection, drag that into my timeline right there, and then perhaps showed the horse in close-up next to that clip, like this, and then show the sheep. All right, let's have a look. We might want to shuffle around a few things.
Waterfalls with my drone. There are a lot of animals as well, especially horses and sheep.
All right, he's pretty fast there, so I might want to trim this walking shot a little bit and move all of these clips here to the side, like that, and maybe move Timon's clip a little bit more to the right side. I think the horse can also be a little bit shorter. Let's play that back.
There are a lot of animals as well, especially horses and sheep.
All right, looking good. Timon can go a little bit more back. And you know, this is a good reason why we want to disable the snap in the timeline for a moment, because I want this clip not to snap here against that clip. So let's just disable that, the little magnet up here. And now I can drag this clip more precise to the left. Let's play that back again.
There are a lot of animals as well, especially horses and sheep.
All right, perfect. That is good in sync. Let's enable snap again, and I might want to like end this video on a final nice note, a good shot of something. What else do we have? I really like this shot here actually, where we see the mountains there in the back. Let's drag that into the timeline as well. There we go. So now we have a nice edit, and I might want to extend the music a bit more until the end. All right, let's play this back in its entirety and take a look if everything sits at the right place.
Hey, I'm Timon. I'm an Arctic explorer, and I recently went to Iceland. The landscapes there are very beautiful, and I was able to capture a lot of waterfalls with my drone. There are a lot of animals as well, especially horses and sheep.
All right, this final clip can be cut off a bit sooner because we have that beat again here. Like right here, we see a little peak here in the audio. That is a beat. So let's trim this clip here of the sheep and then move these mountains here, close that gap. All right, guys, so we got ourselves a small edit. This is how you would present an interview, have the speaker talk, leave some gaps in there, and show what that speaker is talking about. You can let the music start a little bit later. It kind of like introduces the music, introduces Iceland as we show the first mountain shots. Now, there's one last thing missing, and that is sound design. So I'm gonna make some more room down here so that I can see my audio tracks a little bit better, perhaps make my video tracks a little bit smaller. Hold down Alt as you scroll to do that. There we go. Move that up a bit. All right, let's see in my project window where we can find the sound effects. It is right here within audio, and then we've got sound effects. Now, I don't have that many sound effects. If you have a subscription to a music library like Audio, you can download thousands of different sound effects. So it's really useful to have something like that. And again, link in the course description to grab yourself that 70% discount on your first year at Audio. All right, let's have a look. There are a few things in here which I really like. So as this horse here comes closer, I kind of want to emphasize that. Let me just mute the other two tracks here. Let's only listen to the sound design for now. So the horse is coming closer. This is a good point where we can let the horse hear So we got breeding horse right here, so let's double click on that and let's have a listen. Okay, I like the second one a lot. Let's put an in point and an out point around that and drag that sound effect into the timeline into one of the audio tracks here. Let's have a listen. Maybe a little bit more to the side. All right, that is great. What else do we have in there? We have heavy wind, which is definitely going to be useful as well. Like maybe like one of those bigger mountains, like right here or here. Yeah, let's add the wind in there. And this is a bad habit. I should be listening to what I'm editing with. I'm sound designing visually here. All right, what do we have here? Let's have a listen. Okay, let's put it perhaps only under this shot right here. Is there anything else that could use the wind? Perhaps this shot as well. We can see some snow coming through it. So let's take a different part from that same sound effect, perhaps like this part right here, drag that underneath the snowy shot, trim it so that it's the same size, looking good. And I also have some snow footsteps right there, which I can insert under these footsteps. All right, let me just take one to start with, drag that into my timeline, and I might want to zoom in more because I want to synchronize these. So here's a footstep. And now we got another footstep right there. So let's take a second one. All right. There we go. All right, perfect. What else do we have in there? A river, I see. That is a river. We also have a waterfall. That is way more powerful. Let's have a look at the waterfall that we were working with. Yeah, I think we can use the more heavier waterfall. So let's in point, out point, and just put that underneath. Play it back. All right, looking good, guys. And maybe the last part here as well, we might want to add some heavy wind to that too. In point, out point, drag it underneath, like so. And you know what? Even though we don't see a crow, I'm going to put it in there anyways, because I have the sound effect. I always think that a crow sound makes things feel like bigger, like enormous, the mountains. So let's drag that underneath there as well. We could make it subtle, of course. Perfect. Love that sound effect. So the whole idea behind sound design is that you are going to emphasize the visuals. Like, what is the visual telling us? And is there a way that I can amplify that? As I was talking about these mountains right here, I want this to seem big. Like, we humans are very small against those very big mountains, that big open place. So that's why I'm adding that wind and also that crow. Let's play this back and only listen to the sound design because I've got these two tracks muted for now. We could add some wind in here as well. All right, this is good, guys. I know it sounds very rough and it's absolutely not done yet. So that's something that we're going to work on in the next lesson when we're going to do some audio mixing.